In the center of a quiet forest stood an old oak tree. It was enormous. Its trunk was wide and deeply lined with age. Its branches stretched high into the sky like giant arms that had seen centuries pass. Every season, the forest changed around it. Young trees grew, flowers bloomed, animals came and went, but the old oak remained exactly where it had always been. Still, silent, patient. The younger trees often talked among themselves. One bright spring morning, a young maple tree swayed proudly in the wind and said, "Look how tall I have grown in just a few years. Soon I will be the tallest tree in this forest." Another young pine tree laughed softly. "Yes, and look at that old oak. It barely grows anymore. It just stands there doing nothing." The young trees often whispered about the oak. They wondered why it never spoke, why it never complained, why it never reacted to anything around it. Seasons passed. Summer arrived with bright sunlight and warm winds. Birds built their nests in the branches of the old oak. Squirrels ran up and down its trunk. Travelers rested under its shade during long journeys. Yet the oak never boasted about its importance. It simply stood there calm and quiet. One evening, a curious little sparrow landed on one of the oak's branches. The sparrow had watched the forest for many days. Finally, it asked, "Old tree, I have noticed something strange about you." The oak said nothing. The sparrow continued, "Other trees complain about strong winds, heavy rain, or long winters. But you never say anything. Why?" For a long moment, the forest was silent. Then the old oak spoke slowly. Its voice sounded deep and gentle, like the rustling of ancient leaves. "I have seen more seasons than anyone here." The sparrow tilted its head curiously. "What does that mean?" The oak replied, "I have seen storms that uprooted young trees overnight. I have seen droughts that lasted months. I have seen lightning strike the ground just steps away from my roots." The sparrow listened carefully. "But how did you survive all of that?" it asked. The oak answered, "I learned something very important." "What is it?" the sparrow asked eagerly. The old oak paused for a moment. Then it said quietly, "Patience." The sparrow looked confused. "Patience? How can patience protect a tree from storms?" Before the oak could answer, the sky suddenly darkened. A powerful wind began to sweep through the forest. Leaves rustled violently. Branches shook. Clouds gathered quickly overhead. Within minutes, the forest was surrounded by a massive storm. Rain poured down like rivers from the sky. Thunder roared across the mountains. The young trees panicked. The proud maple tree shouted, "The wind is too strong." The pine tree cried, "My branches are bending." The storm grew stronger. Wind howled through the forest like a wild animal. Some young trees bent dangerously. Others cracked under the pressure. Animals ran for shelter. Birds struggled to keep their balance. And in the middle of it all, the old oak tree stood perfectly calm. Its branches moved slowly with the wind. Its roots held firmly in the ground. The sparrow clung tightly to a branch, watching everything. Hours passed. The storm slowly faded. The rain stopped. The wind disappeared. And finally, silence returned to the forest. When morning sunlight appeared again, the forest looked very different. Several young trees had fallen. Others had broken branches. The proud maple tree now leaned sideways. The pine tree had lost half of its top branches. But the old oak tree stood exactly as it had before. Strong, unshaken. The sparrow looked around in amazement. Then it turned to the oak. "Now I understand," the sparrow said softly. "But tell me one thing. Why did the storm not destroy you?" The oak answered calmly, "Because I never fought the storm." The sparrow blinked. "What do you mean?" The oak explained, "When the wind came, I did not resist it. When the rain fell, I did not complain about it. When the storm roared, I remained patient." The sparrow listened closely. The oak continued, "Over many years, my roots grew deeper and deeper. Every storm strengthened them." The sparrow looked down at the ground. The oak's roots spread deep and wide beneath the soil. "So patience made you strong?" the sparrow asked. The oak replied, "Yes. Strength does not come from rushing to grow fast. It comes from standing firm through every storm." The young trees listened quietly. They finally understood something they had never noticed before. The oak had not wasted its time standing still. It had been growing stronger where no one could see, deep underground, in silence. From that day forward, the forest changed. The young trees no longer mocked the old oak. Instead, they looked up to it. Whenever the wind began to rise, they remembered the lesson of the old tree, and slowly, they began to grow their roots deeper too. Because real strength does not grow in comfort. It grows in patience. And those who learn to stand calmly through life's storms often become the strongest of all.